Peace. So we're live. Hopefully this is better. Let me know if you can hear me. See, check it out. If you're on, let me know if you can hear the sound. Are you on? Anybody's on? Now I'm just gonna get into it, trying to see if you can hear it. Anybody can hear it. Live now. Testing. Testing. One. Okay, we on. Okay. So we got that. All right, we're gonna get started. So peace to the person that's on. We got two people on. We're gonna get started. And if you have any questions, just go ahead and type it. But let's start off. I got some notes, a bunch of stuff, but I really wanted to do this. We're talking about the courtship process. Now, the courtship process is a process that I found out as a result of being a member of the Nation of Islam, right? And this is a process that explains and provides a criteria and a guideline for how brothers and sisters can actually come together. Walaikum salam, sister. Good seeing you again. So when we talk about the courtship process, this is the value of the courtship process. Many of us have heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan talk about how there were three bodies of knowledge that the enemy deprived us out of. One, the science of business, the science of warfare, and the third is the science of mating. To me, the courtship process is giving us an opportunity to regain that knowledge known as the science of mating, right? But what I'm starting to see starting to happen within our nation is this. The courtship process is starting to become the Islamic way of having a boyfriend and a girlfriend. And if that's the way we're approaching the courtship process, the results are not going to be as beneficial as they actually can. Listen to what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said in the courtship manual. It says, courtship is defined as the intentional process in which two people formally decide to engage in discovery to find out whether they share enough compatibility characteristics in crucial areas to get engaged and married. As I mentioned in the last city I was in, I'm starting to realize one of the problems that are hindering brothers and sisters from getting into the courtship process, is that people are mistaking the courtship process as being married. So to enter into a courtship, people are putting these standards and this criteria that you really should use when you're trying to marry someone. But courtship is not marriage. I'm going to say that several times, and I'll give some examples of how people are confusing courtship with marriage. Courtship is not marriage. Courtship is that process that helps us to make the decision to gain all of the information where we determine if we want to get married. And the minister says this, or in a manual, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has stated in the word courtship is the word court. Whenever matters are brought before a court, facts have to be discovered for a decision or a judgment to be made. In a trial, there is the process of discovery. In courtship, there should be the same process. We should try to discover as much about the person we can in order to find out if the two are compatible or not for marriage, right? But I was talking to some people before, and I was asking them what was the hesitancy, what was causing them to be so hesitant in putting in a courtship request. And the person said that they needed to know certain things before they actually put in a courtship request. And I asked them, what do you need to know? And this person said, I need to know her credit score. I need to know how much financial debt that she has. And as I listened to the person say that, it made me realize that this person is misunderstanding courtship. They're confusing courtship with marriage. Like, why would you need to know what a person's credit score is just to determine if you want to court them? Or what their financial debt is just because you want to court them? No, that's what you need to find out when you're making decision to be married. But courtship gives us the opportunity to find that out. So what people are doing is we have all of these unreal expectations, and we need to find out all of this stuff before we get into a courtship. And what happens is we blow the opportunity. Courtship gives you and I, as Muslims in the Nation of Islam, the opportunity to talk to a brother and a sister in a proper climate to begin to start finding out that information, right? So that's what that part. The other thing I want to talk about in regards to, I mentioned this earlier, people are approaching courtship in the nation now as if it's the Islamic way for being a boyfriend and a girlfriend. And when you approach it that way, what happens is you don't have the strength to ask the right questions that you need to have asked. Because when you're a boyfriend or girlfriend, think about when you had a boyfriend and a girlfriend when you were in the world, how you approach things, right? No. Courtship is where you're coming there, you're trying to find out if this person has the compatibility for you, and you're trying to find out if where their goal, what are their goals, what are their aspirations, what's their background, what's their family history, right? So we're going to get more into that. So let me talk about some of the rules as it relates to courtship. Some of y'all may agree with this, some of you all may not, but I'm going to talk about it. Right. So as it relates to courtship, it says properly starting a courtship. In the manual, it says when an FOI, that's a male member of the Nation of Islam, or an MGT, the female member of the Nation of Islam, sees an MGT that he thinks he may make him a good wife, he should mention this to the minister, brother captain, or lieutenant. A brother should never approach an MGT to inquire about her marriage status or her interest in them. You heard what it says? You should not go up to a sister and say, are you interested in me? Or a sister go up to a brother, are you interested in me? And that's what many of us are doing. Instead of having the courage just to submit the courtship request, we're going through all of these back doors and all of these sideways to find out if the person is interested in us, when you really should just submit the courtship request. It goes further. He should not hint or flirt. If he hasn't already been introduced, he should ask to be introduced to her. The request is forwarded to the sister captain, and if the sister being requested declines the request, the brother captain will inform the FOI and he moves on. If she accepts, a meeting will be arranged for them to formally meet if they haven't already met, and they will counsel them on the rules to courtship. So here's some of the basic rules to courtship. I kind of just want to just freestyle this, but I want to talk about it. The rules of courtship. Of course, we know no premarital sex, right? And it talks about in regards to the courtships are not announced as they used to be in the mosque, where brother so-and-so and sister so-and-so accord and said, no, courtships are private and should not be announced. The engagement is public and should be announced if they decide to get engaged, right? Now, this is another thing and some sisters disagree with, but this is in the manual. Listen to what the question says. Can a sister ask for a brother in courtship? And this is from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, June 30, 2006. Likewise, if a sister sees a brother that she is interested in finding out more about, she will go to her sister captain and make that known. The sister captain would then approach the brother captain, and he will make this known to the brother. If the brother is interested in the sister asking about him, knowing him better, then the two of them will meet and begin the process of learning about each other. So the sisters can do it. Now, this is the thing, sisters who are watching this and who will be watching this. If there's a brother in the mosque that you're interested in, and for whatever reason, he may not know that you're interested in because you're not flirting, how would he find out? How would he find out? If you're not going to put a courtship request in, then you must come up with a method by which he will find out that you are interested in him. So, but when we begin to start trying to go around all those ways to do that, that's when it begins to start being dangerous. Just put in the courtship, right? What were brothers out of town? Explain that question a little bit more. What were brothers out of town? So here's another part. We say that the court no premarital sex, right? We talked about all of that. And the rules of the courtship, it says a brother shouldn't be paying a sister's bills, nor should a sister be paying the brother's bills, and all of that type of stuff. Can I court more than one person? No. No, not under any circumstance. This is Brother Jabril. Courting is not a dating game where one gets to be a player playing in the field. So you cannot court more than one person. It says, how long should a courtship last? 3 months, 6 months, or to a year? Minister Farrakhan. I will not put a time limit on courtship. When we go to court, our aim is to find evidence that either convicts or frees the accused. Long trials are expensive. Long courtships of no value. Courtship should be only as long as it takes the parties involved to find necessary truths about each other. Either way, that will either say this courtship should end or the two should be engaged, right? So he talks about that. But we're told that the courtship is from 6 months until a year. And if we do it right, we can actually make a good decision. I see your question. When it talks about, we're going over some of the rules. How should the courtship should be ended? The minister. Or it talks about when a courtship should be ended, that's between the two brothers, the brother and the sister. But you should still end the courtship still being a brother and a sister. Listen, a successful courtship is not, to one degree, of course, if it develops or evolves into marriage, is successful. But a successful courtship is making the right decision. If a person has looked at the compatibility or the characteristics of the brother and the sister, and they realize that this brother is not a good fit for me, the sister is not a good fit for me, and they make a decision, then that's a successful courtship. A successful courtship is making the right decision. The sister said, can they go directly to your brother captain in your mosque? In regards to the, who can go right directly, the brother or the sister, right? You just find out to be clear on that. There's so much that I want to say about this. So if you are a sister in the mosque and you're interested in a brother, you know, I would suggest you might can find out about a married, there's a married sister in the mosque, and her husband may be her husband may know the brother. You know, maybe they can set some things up where you all can talk, right, to find out. Then it says, can you speak on what expectations should be when deciding whether to go into courtship? So I want to go back. You say, so the brothers, what with brothers out of town? If there's a brother out of town, yeah, you can go directly to the, where the process is, that brother should get in contact with his captain, and his captain would get in contact with the captain in the mosque in the other city, right? But here is, because we know about some of the problems that has actually taken place when it talks about the courtship. Here's what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said. It says this: is permission or approval needed to court someone? The minister says, no one's permission or approval is needed to court someone, although out of courtesy, one should inform the laborers. The laborers are informed by going through the above mentioned process. However, this process should not be misinterpreted to mean that you must wait for permission. No official should deliberately block a believer from courtship, and no laborer has any authority over who a believer chooses to court. If the laborers have concerns about someone, they should arrange to meet the brother and or sister and share their concerns. However, an official should not try to control or unduly interfere in the business or personal business of courtship of process, right? So he talks about that. Now, when he talks about, I'm still not 100% clear on your question, sis. But to our sister Adrian, we said, can you speak on what our expectations should be when we are deciding to go into courtship? I kind of talked about what they should not be. Your expectations to go into courtship should not be the same expectations that you will use when you're deciding to marry someone, right? Like, for example, I mentioned this in the city. I know people who put in courtship requests for people who lived outside of the city. And some of them had some dialogue on social media. But some of the people refused the courtship request by the brother because they said they were not willing to move to another city. And when I heard that, I said, that's another example of how they're confusing courtship with marriage. Just because you accept a courtship request from a brother from a different city, that doesn't mean you're going to move to the city, because you don't even know the person. But the courtship should give you an opportunity to find out about the person, and then you may find out that the brother may be willing to move to your city. Salute to brother Roland from he's from Utica, New York. And I was talking to this brother, and to give you an example, he was from a different city. He submitted a courtship request for this sister who lived in Utica, New York, right? And of course, he was thinking that if they go forward and get married and engaged, she'll move to the city. But he said, as they got into the courtship, he realized that this sister's family was established, and he didn't want to uproot her and her daughters, so he decided to move there. That's what courtship is supposed to give us, the opportunity to decide to make those decisions. But some people are shooting down courtship requests solely off the base that this brother lives in another city, and they haven't used the 6 months to a year to determine, where at the end of the 6 months, the sister may say, I really do not want to move. But at the end of the 6 months to a year, the brother may say, I'm willing to move to your city, right? Here's the other thing when we talk about courtship. And we talk about, what do you need to know? One, are they a Muslim? Are they active in the mosque? These are some general things. What's their behavior in the mosque? Are they a troublemaker? Or are they a good person? Just some basic things, right? You should know. Are you physically attracted to the person, right? Do they seem to have something going for them? Do they seem to be someone that they are taking care of themselves? But your decision to court somebody should not be same as your decision to want to marry someone. I hope that is very, very clear. When we talk about chaperones, most of us have begun to limit chaperones just this body of protection to prevent people from having sex. And when we only put chaperones into that small box, we miss the great value that we can get from chaperones. We're taught that when you go on a chaperone outing, that the brother and sister should go with a couple that has some years of marriage, or they are older and they're older and they've been married for some years, right? Why? Because when you go with a chaperone couple who've been married for some years and they have already had their trials and successes of overcoming obstacles in marriage, they can get you and I to look at things that we may not look at. Because when you're courting, you're caught up in, I'm courting brother so-and-so, I'm courting sister so-and-so, and you're not asking these questions. But older couples or people who've been married for some years and say, sister, have you asked him what his relationship is with his mother? Have you asked him, he has children, what is that relationship like with his children, right? An older couple, an older brother who's married may say, what's her relationship with her father? They'll get us to begin to start asking questions that we may not want to talk about. Have you all had the conversation about finances? Have you all had the conversation about health? But then instead of not just them asking us those questions, as a courting couple, we can begin to start asking them questions about marriage. When you all were courting, what made you want to court her? Or what type of questions did you ask? As a courting couple, what areas would you tell me that or suggest that I really need to pay attention to? Right? And so that's one of the benefits of having chaperones. We want to say they're here to stop them from having sex. But at the end of the courtship outing, when you go back home, you're a grown man and a grown woman, nobody's going to be sitting outside of your house. You can get in your car, she can get in her car, y'all can go meet up, whatever. But that's going to be on us if we choose to make that decision. But chaperone couples that we can draw from their experiences, so we can do that. And we talk about what type of questions we should ask. We should ask questions that help us to get to an understanding of what we want. But this is the thing. The level of our questioning or the qualities of our questions is going to be limited based upon the level of work that we've done or haven't done for ourselves. What do you mean by that? I want to read something that Minister Farrakhan said in this study guide. And not in this, I keep saying the study guide, but he talks about in this manual. If you don't have the courtship manual, brothers and sisters, you need to do it. Look, as I'm saying about questioning, If we haven't really been engaged in the process of self-improvement and being brutally honest with ourselves and addressing our areas of strengths and our areas where we need to be improved, we're going to ask shallow questions. You know why? Because we're not going to ask somebody a question we wouldn't want them to ask us. So we're going to ask them those surface questions. But if we've really been engaged in working on ourselves and addressing our shortcomings, we will want the same for other people who we're going to be courting. So listen to what it says. Prior to courting, you must have done some work on yourself before you truly set out to seek a mate. How you choose is heavily influenced by your self-concept, which is tied 100% to your concept of Allah. How you choose is based upon your own self-concept. So if you haven't done really a lot of work on your own, you're going to choose people based upon your level of self-esteem. So this is why, as you're a single believer right now, if you're not a believer, you may be in church or whatever, you really should be engaged in the process of self-improvement. Because the more you improve yourself, the clearer your view will be. Think about the scripture when it says, how can you talk about the splinter in your brother's eye when you have a plank in your own eye? That's symbolic, but imagine having a plank in your eye. That means that will interrupt your ability to see. So what Jesus is telling us in that scripture is work on yourself. Because as we begin to start working on ourselves, it will give us clearer sight. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan used this example. He said, using the principle of multiplication, imagine that you are a 2 and you want to have a 10, right? And he said, if you are a 2 and you want to have a 10 in a relationship, then using the principle of multiplication, you know that you will need to multiply that 2 times a what? A 5. But what if you haven't done that work on yourself and you don't know you're a 2? You might end up multiplying yourself by something that will give you more than a 10. You get too much of what you want. You might end up saying that you had a desire for somebody who's confident, but you might attract somebody who's arrogant. Or you might multiply yourself against something that is lower than yourself. You might attract somebody who don't have any belief in his or herself. So it goes further. What attracts you to the other person depends on what you are and is what's in you and how you see yourself, whether real or real, and your willingness to ever improve. So this is why we need to go to work on ourselves, because you're going to attract people based upon who and what we are, right? So there's a bunch of stuff. I'll say this too. We have several people that are part of these social media courtship blogs. And what I'm noticing is this. A lot of the discussions that take place in these single courtship blogs, if you look at a lot of the topics of the discussions, they're topics that should be taking place between married individuals. Like, you're courting. So we're having questions about men, what will happen in regards to the finances in the home. Should a wife work? Wait, you're courting. And see, this is what makes me further believe how we're confusing courtship with marriage. In a sense, we're putting the cart before the horse. We're having discussions that are talking about problems that married people deal with. What are the discussions that should be discussed about single believers who want to get into courtship? Meaning, some discussions should be, what are you doing to prepare yourself for courtship? What have you done to divest or detoxify yourself from bad habits that you learn from being in the world, right? What are your goals? Are there any goals that you want to accomplish before you enter into courtship? We should be having discussions about what is your criteria? How do you know that? How do you develop your criteria looking for a courtmate? We should be having discussions about what are the pros and the cons of courting someone that's a long distance courtship. But instead we're having too many discussions that about topics that are really topics that affect married people. And I think that this is a result of, as I keep saying over and over, that we're confusing courtship with marriage. If you have any questions, let me know. If there are any topics you want me to go back over, let me know as well, right? I talked about what is a successful courtship. A successful courtship is when you're able to make the right decision. At some point in the courtship, you're going to start talking about finances. At some point in the courtship, when you're getting later and later and it's getting serious, You need to do a background check. I mean, not talking about going to the government and all that type of stuff, but I mean, you want to talk to the ex-wife or the ex-husband. You should want to see if this person has a history of, may have a history of being domestically an abusive person, or even or being verbally abusive. And I'm not just saying that's for the brother or the sister. That's for both, right? Because there are sisters who can be verbally abusive and even uh, physically abusive. At some point in the courtship, later down the line, when it's getting serious, you want to talk about health, right? You want to talk about wealth. You want to talk about what's his view about child rearing. Because some brothers have the view that with child rearing, all that resides solely on the woman. You want to talk about what's her understanding, how are the finances going to be handled. That's in the courtship. You want to have all of these things. But what will make the process easier is if you are able to enter the process of courtship already having an idea of what you're looking for in a mate. In the Holy Quran, it says that we are like a covering to one another. We're like a clothing. All of us on this line have been shopping, right? When you go into a store, you already know your size, right? You know your shoe size, you know your shirt size, your dress size, pant size, suit size, whatever it may be. You know all of these things, right? You even know what colors best accentuate, if I'm pronouncing that right, who you are. So when you go into a clothing store, you already have an idea of what you're looking for. And you'll already also know if you're going to a wedding. You don't go into a clothing store looking for clothes to go into a wedding and you're looking for a jogging suit and Adidas jumpsuit. No, you know that that's not fitting for the occasion. So my point is that if we are a clothing for one another, in order to, you should, when you go into a place, you already know what you're looking for, right? That should be the same way when we enter into a courtship. You should have an idea of what you want. Think about the example of grocery shopping. When do you spend the most time in the grocery store? When do you spend the most time in the mall? Oftentimes, experts say that we spend the most time in the grocery store and the most time in the mall when we go into that grocery store or we go into that mall not having an idea of what we want. Like you can go into a grocery store and you don't have an idea of what you want. You come out buying stuff that you look at your budget and it's like, man, I really didn't need to buy that. But we entered into the grocery store not knowing what we want. It's the same thing with the courtship. You should go into the courtship process having an idea of what you want. But our chances of having a greater understanding of what we want are greater when we know and have done work with ourselves, right? I feel like I'm jumping all over the place. Are there any questions that you might have? Any questions that you might have? What is courtship and what is courtship? What is not courtship? As I said, courtship is not a boyfriend and girlfriend. It's us going in there to try to find out if this person has the qualities that I actually need, right? Can't help but gotta stress the thing in with self-improvement. You have to do the work in self-improvement. You have to do the work because the more honest. Here's a lecture I'll tell you all to go check out. Thanks, sis. There's a lecture titled "The Theology of Self," and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that he shared some stuff about his trials growing up. And he said, I'm sharing this. He said, I know some of you all may say, well, you are sharing this and it may lower me in your eyes. But the minister said, I'm sharing with you all how I have been brutally honest with myself so that you can be brutally honest with yourself. And some of us enter into courtships and we don't bring our authentic self. In the courtship, you should bring who you are. The good, the bad, and the ugly. So in the end, when it gets into that period where the person can make that decision, they know this is what I'm getting into. But if we don't bring our true selves into the courtship process, then we don't give the person an opportunity to make a decision based upon real facts. They make it based upon the false person that we have brought ourselves, that we brought to this actual courtship. I'm trying to think. I covered the point about, I know I keep stressing this about how courtship is not marriage. I keep stressing that because that's why I think we're failing. And in regards to that, most of the believers in my mosque are married too young, or married or too young, and because the distance is hard to visit at a mosque and study group. How should we rely on the net? In person, I know everybody doesn't agree with this, But I believe that we could really get an idea from social media of whether or not we want to court someone. I would not say base your decision to marry someone solely off of their social media presence, but I think we can get an idea from a person's behavior and activity on social media where we know if we want to court them. I'll give you an example. As you are watching this right now, think about a person on social media who you know, I would not want to be friends with this person. You probably can think of somebody right now. You probably can think about more than one, right? Think about somebody on social media they're always positive. They're always optimistic. Can you think of a person like that? Think about somebody on social media who think about somebody a person on social media who they're always engaged in some arguments about something. Think about somebody on social media, they always have a negative comment. Think about somebody on social media, they're very attractive, right? So my point is, if you can think about that, social media can give us an idea about whether or not that we want to possibly court somebody. If there's a brother or a sister that you're interested in social media, I would suggest that you begin to start engaging them in the discussion on their timeline. Don't let the first time you contacted them in their um, inbox, right? Engage with the person, especially if you're in a different city. They might not even know who you are, but engage with the person, right? And I think, people begin to start knowing like, yo, she hitting likes on a lot of my pictures. She's already always commenting, or he's always commenting. And they can begin to start getting an idea. And if you ask them, yo, what city are you from? Then you can see, they can get an idea, but I believe that you can find a courtmate. Now, of course, you got to begin to start doing more and more of the work to see if you want to go from being a courtmate to being married. Somebody says, Brother Willie, have you ever heard it said that the Most High Elijah Muhammad said you should make a brother angry in courtship to find out how they handle their anger? And I would say this, I haven't heard him say that you should do that in courtship, but I have heard the Most High Elijah Muhammad has said that if you want to see what's in the person, make them angry. But he said be wise in doing it. And I think in courtship, at some point, we need to see how they handle disappointment, right? How they handle certain things, right? How do they handle certain things? Then it says, and with the inboxes stuff, let's say if you're interested in a sister and you inbox this sister and you express, sister, I'm interested in you. But it should be where you're trying to be interested in this sister and you just want to have this endless long course, this endless conversation through courtship. I mean, not courtship, this endless conversation through inbox. If you're interested in a sister, you make it let the sister know, dear sister, I'm interested in you. I'm not trying to be inappropriate. State your intentions. Sister, I am going to put a courtship request in for you. What is the name of your brother captain? What is the name of your, what city are you from and who's your brother captain? Then as a brother, you take that information, go to your brother captain and let him do it. But what happens is we begin to start having all these unofficial courtships, and the person who ends up losing in the end is the sisters. So don't engage these brothers in no long conversation and all of that. They get enough. I believe they can get enough to find out from social media what city you're in and what you're about in order to begin a courtship. Our sister said, I took Brother Minister's advice in this. Thank you, sister. I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that. I would think you might not want to do that too early in the courtship. Would not want to do what too early in the courtship? Sister mentioned something in regards to that. I want to build this up and we're going to talk more about this, but I really want to really get this. There are two things I really wanted to mention. One, and we need to begin to start saying this, courtship is not marriage. I'm going to keep saying that. Yeah, definitely. In the beginning, you don't want to try to make them angry early on like that. That's why it says use wisdom. Courtship is not marriage. And also in these single believers groups, let's try to get away from having all of these discussions about topics that really affect married people. Have topics that deal with people who are single and with courtship. What do you know what I'm saying? Because we're getting into all of these discussions about stuff that really deal with married people. Are we allowed to speak with more than one person before we put in a courtship request? I'm gonna read this, my brother. You got to be careful about you be careful about doing it. I'm gonna read what it says. This is in the courtship manual. It says this: cannot court more than one person at a time. No, not under any circumstances. Courting is not a dating game where one gets to be a player playing in the field. And the thing is, really, ideally, how it's supposed to go, we should not be having free conversations with sisters who, this is, when people who may be watching this may not be in the Nation of Islam, when I'm speaking to the Nation of Islam, we have our own rules. You don't have these free conversations with sisters like that. And I think, man, if we are really, really honest, man, we know when we're interested in a sister. The mere fact if you always checking this sister's page and trying to find out more about it, you know you're interested in it. So let's just cut the chase and just put in a courtship request. Do you have any suggestions for those who are introverted, reserved, and painfully shy in terms? Let me say this about social media too. Listen, if you're single on social media and you're interested in possibly finding a prospective courtmate, you should not be on social media and not have a picture of yourself. Like your social media, use the what's the little picture that they have? I can't think of it. Your picture is somebody meditating. Your picture is a nature picture. Like a person go on your page and they can't find any picture of you. How can you attract your profile picture? How can you attract somebody like that when they don't even know how you look? How do you look, right? So for people we have people who are introverted, but just social media gives us an opportunity to practice getting out of that. The minister spoke a couple of weeks ago. Why not post on the page, hey, brothers and sisters, what did you all think about? What did you all think about the election, right? Uh, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this subject? What do you think about? I read this in How to Eat to Live. Start the discussion. And then if there's somebody you're interested in hearing what they have to say, tag them in it. Or if you're trying to be discreet, tag several people in it to see what they say. My wife, who will, inshallah, will be married for 18 years coming up in November, we didn't have social media. So this is how I used to engage with her. We weren't courting. The meeting would end on Sundays. My wife would bake bean pies. I would come down there, be right in a little area where everybody would be eating, right? Be vending their goods. And I would come down and I'll just start a conversation of, oh, sister, what made you start baking bean pies? Then I'll find, hey, what do you do? Right? All praises due to Allah. So I'll ask questions. Like we should have these social settings. I just left the city of Baltimore, and salute to the believers in Baltimore and the leadership there, Sister Leslie, Brother Andrew, the secretary, Brother Carlos. They just had an ear feast where they brought all of the believers together. That's a social event. So brothers, instead of sitting at the table with all of the brothers, if there's a sister you want to find more about, go and sit at that table where she is and begin to start having a discussion. Sisters, how was your Ramadan? Like we sometimes get into the mosque and we begin to start inbox me your email and I'll send it to you, brother. Like we come in and we just lose common sense. If there's social events, like at our mosque tonight, we're having an ear feast back in New Orleans. If there's a single brother, this is the time you should be there. Study group. If you want to see what's the sister's level of understanding about the teachings, here's study group. Go to study group. How does she respond, right? These little events in the manual, the minister talks about how, look what he said. When we held unity night on Tuesdays before the Nation of Islam fell, the believers had the opportunity to gather in the social atmosphere, watching films, engaging in informal discussions, playing games at the mosque, right? This gave the believers an opportunity to know each other. Of course, this was not done in every city. It depended on this and that. So we need to take advantage of these opportunities. We take advantage of them. One time we were traveling our region, we were going to a youth conference, and downstairs in the hotel lobby, like during Savior's Day, you see all of the sisters. They're sitting down, gathered, talking. Myself and the brother will go over and sit down. What's going on? The sisters in our city. What y'all think about the youth conference? And begin to start having these type of discussions. You see what I'm saying? So now If you are single in your mosque, why not start a single social? Well, it don't have to be on Tuesday. It can be on Saturday. Talk to the laborers. Hey, I want to do this. Get a married couple that may be there. Why can't you hold a panel discussion at the mosque or some event with the single people? Why can't you organize an event where single people are going to be there? Invite a married couple because you want to gain from their understanding. But we have to begin to do that. I talked about there's so much, I guess, going down the line. We're going to do this, and if you haven't, subscribe to my page so when I go live periodically, this is new for me and I'm kind of like just talking about it. We're going to talk more and more about these issues. You see some of my previous videos, I talk about certain tips that can help you even as a single Muslim, even as a Muslim that's going to begin to start courting, right? Let me see. Let's talk about that. Talk about self-knowledge. Look at the minister says, how well do you know yourself? Self-knowledge provides the basis on which to make a serious and proper decision. So in the city of New Orleans, where I have to give this plug, on July the 20th through the 22nd, we're having a single social. It's going to start on that Friday. It's going to end on that Sunday. And we're really striving to create an atmosphere. It's not going to be lectures, an atmosphere where single members of the Nation of Islam can come together and begin to interact. And with this thing, brothers and sisters, even if you're in a church or some other religious community, you can still use the courtship process to in your place. A lot of times now, we just having this is no rules, right? And one of the benefits about courting is you know that this brother has a 6 months to a year to make a decision. Like some people date people for years and this person has never decided where they want to take this marriage, right? So, but as I said, you have to have an idea of what you want. So as a single person, right now, you should be working on yourself as a single individual, working on those things that you know you need to improve. That's the advice I'll give you. Second, you need to sit down and write the type of things you want in a possible potential mate. Physical, because that's real. Physical, how do you want them to look? That's real. What characteristics do you want to have? Do you want somebody with children? Do you want somebody not with children? Do you want somebody older? Do you want somebody that's not older, right? Do you prefer to have somebody that's in your city or somebody that's not in your city? So you have to write these things down. Write down what are your likes, what are your dislikes, right? We have to write these things down because all of this goes into preparation for getting us to be ready for that courtship and eventually that particular marriage, right? And so, you know, I'll send some people some stuff about the courtship manual so you can actually have it. Some people are talking about they want to be in courtship and they haven't even read the manual. Like, come on, man, you got to do this. And there are some good Christian preachers that's out there that have given good lectures or sermons that are talking about preparing yourself if you're single, right? Because the same challenge that we're having in the Nation of Islam with single sisters and single brothers, you're having it also in the church. But we have to understand that marriage builds strong relationships. The courtship process helps you and I. It creates an environment where we can talk to somebody to make the decision if we want to marry this person. So we got a couple of more minutes. I normally don't like to really do stuff long like this because I respect people's time, but people have been asking me to do longer stuff. And I feel like social media is filled with a bunch of relationship stuff that give people bad stuff. So I want to give some sound, righteous stuff, guidance on things. So if you have any questions right now, we can use these last couple of minutes to ask some questions about courtship. We talked about the rules and the procedures, the outings and the chaperones. We talk about what to look for. Each individual, what I might have looked for in a mate, you might be looking for something different. So what you look for in a mate or in a courtship partner is based upon yourself. I can't tell you what to look for because your likes are not my likes. My likes are not your likes. Your dislikes are not my likes. You have to do that work yourself, right? Another thing that you need to do, heal. What I mean heal. Heal from all of the bad examples of relationships you have experienced or bad examples of relationships you have witnessed. Because you'll bring that into a courtship and you'll bring that into marriage. It says Says, I have a problem in my mind. Brothers have flirted with me, which is annoying, but won't ask the court. How do I handle this? Hmm. One, don't fall into their flirting. That's one. And two, if don't your antenna should go up with brothers who want to flirt with you, but not put in a courtship request. Don't do that. And I shared this when I was in I think I shared this when I was in Baltimore. There was a sister who I was interested in coming up as a young Muslim. And she called my home outside of the courtship process. And it really took the wind out of my interest in her, right? So if those brothers are if they are so interested in you, they should put the courtship request in. And if they don't put the courtship request in, do not give them any of your time. Because evidently their motives may not be the best and they have some interior motives. Don't give them any of your time, right? And if some of their flirting, you say, listen, brother, I don't have time to be playing around. I'm a Muslim. I'm striving to be a Muslim woman, right? I don't have time for that. If you want to court me, court me. If not, stay out of my face. And tell them firm like that. Firm like that to let them know not to be playing with you. And then like our sister said, with a lot of this inboxing, a lot of this inboxing is going on. Check them. Listen, how can I listen? You don't need to, what are you inboxing me about? I just want to conversate with you. No, you don't need to conversate with me. You can conversate with me on my timeline. Other than that, if you don't have any, I'm just let them know I'm not into this side conversation with them. You gotta let them know this. But oftentimes, sisters, you all fall for that because some of you are so afraid of being by yourself. Well, I want to run them off, and you begin to start entertaining them, and you entertain them, and what happens is they take up all your space spiritually and emotionally, and it creates something where you end up missing the person who might want to court you. Shut them down. Shut them down. We have to really come to grips that this is our way. All of this side conversation, ain't nobody, you should not be having a side conversation with some brother in the mosque who just want to call you to talk. Let's just talk. But he don't want to court you. He want to ask you all of these questions that a courtmate would ask his courtmate, but he don't want to court you. Why are you giving him access to you like that? He want to ask you all of these questions. What type of brother do you want? What are your aspirations? How many children? Well, you want to, he should, if he ain't courting you, he don't deserve the right to ask you them questions. And it's the same with brothers. It's the same with the brothers. You know what I'm saying? It's the same with the brothers. So don't entertain that type of stuff. Some of us have really not accepted that, the courtship is how we say we as believers, this is what we say we're going to sign up for as believers. And some people doubt the courtship process, so they don't follow it. So courtship is out in the open and not private. Good teachings. What's not public anymore. At first, we used to court in the nation. They'll say, we want to announce, like when my wife announced her court on a Sunday, we want to announce that Brother Willie and Sister Michelle are in the courtship, right? They used to do that. They don't do that anymore. We don't, somebody keeps sending me text messages. We don't do that anymore. There's no public announcement. But you should eventually, we're a small community, people are gonna find out you're courting. It shouldn't be nobody knows you're courting. Because then imagine that nobody knows you're courting, and then a brother might be interested in a sister you're courting. He come to you, man, hey man, what's that sister over there? You know she what you know about her? Right? What do you know about? No. You need to let people know you're courting. Right? It's a community effort. It's a community effort. And I believe that courtships add to the quality of inner minds. You say we're talking about agree. A lot of inboxing. Yeah, people definitely inbox, but you got to shut them down. Shut them down. Let them know that look, we're not doing. We're gonna do this for like an hour's work. We got about 11 more minutes. Any other questions? I hope that I always do this. I hope that I'm covering a lot of stuff. There's a lot I want to say and more. I want to eventually write a book about courtship. So when I get the opportunity, I just need to sit down and do it. Singles can talk about this, not Islamic, find about being compatible. You got to know yourself, family. You got to know yourself. Oh, and I'll say this. The Nation of Islam is not your mosque or your study group. You may not be able to travel to a far away study group or mosque, but they got these little mosque and study groups that's right around your city driving. Like I'm here in Louisville, Cincinnati is like an hour and a half away. Um, Indianapolis is like an hour and a half away. Man, save up some money and one day say, yo, I'm going to Cincinnati this weekend. I'm going to Indianapolis this weekend. And then, brothers, when you go, listen, man. I told those brothers who, for the single thing, when I talked to some of the brothers in our region, I said, man, listen. Our sister saying Daytona, Columbus. Hey, sister, what's the nearest cities by Baltimore? You naming all of those cities. What's the nearest cities by Baltimore? So, and listen, man, when you go there, go look in your best. Go look in your best, man. Make sure your shoes shine. Make sure your suit is clean. Got a nice tie, haircut. Make sure there's no hair coming all out of your ears, all out of your nose. Put a mint in your mouth. Make sure you go there looking your best. Same thing with sisters. Make sure you go there looking the best. Make sure your headpiece is not falling all off of your head and all of this type of stuff. Or you're from Cincinnati, so you just got here in Baltimore only 4 years. Okay. Well, hey, I know DC is like an hour away. She said, I don't have a social media and I'm single. Do you think I should? But myself, man, listen, social media is a monster these days. It's an entity. You cannot deny it. And that's our brother Brian. I know you processing. Get registered, man. Get registered, and we're gonna work on all this other stuff. But make sure you get registered. And I'll mention this right here. I'll read this. I'll read what the minister says. Oh, he says this. They asked him the question. How long should a brother be in the mosque before asking for a sister? Minister Farrakhan. If a sister has been in the mosque for a significant amount of time, and the brother is just coming in and he sees a sister, it is better not to court. Let that brother get trained in the way of God for at least 3 to 9 months. A sister cannot take a chance of marrying someone who just popped up out of the grave because you are putting yourself under the authority, of someone who will not have the wisdom to guide a wife and a family. Let that person come into the nation and get grounded into the way of Allah and the messenger, then it would be proper to court. But just to scoop a person coming in that you saw accept the faith, then you should not start courting. That is not wise. So that's what the minister says into that. Then the other thing is, let's be real, man. We live in the world, right? Sometimes you'll be in the world and some brother who is not in the nation may be interested in you. Some sister who may not be in the nation may be interested in you. Invite them to the mosque. Invite them to the mosque and let them accept the teachings. But when they accept the teachings, don't say, no, I need the court. No, let them develop, right? Let them develop. And then once they develop, they've registered, they've been in the mosque for a while, then you go to the courtship. Ooh, Brother Willie, my daughter who is registered wants to know, at what point in the courtship should you start asking intimate questions, things such as a STD. Yo, that's very good. And we gotta ask those questions. I think it shouldn't be early on. You know, if it is going to that area, if it's going to that, you can kind of see that you're serious about this person, where you have entertained thoughts like, I can see myself married to brother, or I can see myself married to this sister. You should have those discussions. And even after when it's getting to that, before you get married, we need to have some type of health screening. Need to find out if they have HIV, if they have some one of these diseases. And just, if he asks me to marry him, I would. Then she needs to ask him that question. Then it says, this is good. I've seen and heard female believers bash FOI. Some even use social media to humiliate people they didn't work out with. Hurt people. And this is the thing. You know, sometimes when you see stuff come out of people on social media, say all praise is due to Allah, because now this is a sign that that's not the type of person that I want, right? That's not what I don't need that person. That's what you begin to start saying. I can see on social media some people are like, yo, whew, avoid that person. And you know that. So we got to see these flags. But the thing is, we have to pay attention. And a lot of times, I mentioned this, I think I posted my last 1 minute relationship tip. On the airplane last night, I was watching the movie Casino. And in the movie Casino, Robert De Niro's character, he proposes to this woman who was just really like, she was just like a baller manipulating the gamblers. And this lady clearly didn't like him like that. He actually said, "Do you love me?" She clearly said, "I don't love you." But he was trying to force her into his reality. And he ended up paying for it in the end, if you ever see the movie. And sometimes we do that. When you're in a courtship, you got to be honest and say that me and this person really does not gel, and make the decision. Remember, a successful courtship is not based upon, not solely, if it gets married, that's cool, but it's based upon making the right decision. So it says, and hurt people do hurt people. And I would say this to our sister Vicky. I heard a sister say this on an interview one time. She said, we must remember that you are not marrying an FOI. You are not marrying an MGT. You are not courting an FOI. You're not courting an MGT. You are courting a brother who's trying to become an FOI, and you're courting a sister who's trying to become an MGT, right? So like if you are courting somebody as a brother, you should ask her. Don't just assume that she is in agreement with how they eat to live. Don't just assume that she loves all of her units. Ask her, sister, how do you really feel about how to take care of her husband? And what's your understanding of how to take care of a husband? How do you feel about acting, how to act at home and abroad? How do you feel about rearing children? What's your understanding of that? What role do you see your future husband playing in those areas, right? And as a sister, you need to ask a brother, how do you feel about a woman working at home? How do you feel? What's your understanding about chores around the house? What is your understanding about raising children, right? What's your understanding about all of those particular things? You need to ask these questions. Don't assume anything. I think about ask every question, even if it seems stupid, like, why am I asking this child? No, ask the question, because the minister says that even after you ask all of those questions, there are going to be some things that's going to pop up that you didn't think that you need to ask, right? So you got to ask those questions to find out. It's like building a foundation. Somebody says, does the courtship process scare the believers? Why would you say the FY and MGT end up with someone outside of the miles? No, I'm not saying that they end up with anybody outside of the miles. I was just saying that we live in a world, and sometimes you have brothers who, single sisters outside the Nation of Islam, might approach a brother, or vice versa. What I'm saying is, I believe that a brother, if you're in the nation, I believe that you should marry somebody in the nation, because this lifestyle that we have affects every aspect of our life. It affects what we eat, what we watch, what we do for recreation, how we dress, how we conduct our homes. We take our shoes off when we come into our homes. So why not get somebody who's familiar with your lifestyle and has already accepted it? So I'm not saying that you should go out and marry somebody else. I've seen people, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've seen brothers do this a lot. That you go out and try to think like you're going to be Allah. I'm going to be God. I'm going to make her a Muslim. And we get in trouble with that. You don't make Muslims. Allah, God makes Muslims. And we get in trouble. So then you marry this sister, and she ended up marrying you because, I got him now. But her heart was never really in Islam. And that begins to be a problem. It says, blah, blah, blah. Good teachings. All praises due to Allah for that. We go to the next one. Why do you think brothers are apprehensive about getting married? Also, thanks for encouraging strong marriages and courtships. I think that's my people. Why do you think brothers are apprehensive about getting married? I would say this, and you can go research this. Malcolm X wrote a letter to the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. It is online. He wrote a letter to the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and Malcolm X talked about how the brothers were apprehensive of marrying sisters. And Malcolm X said that he believed the reason why is because of the great emphasis that we place on marriage. So Malcolm X said, he said, because of the great emphasis we place on marriage. And I think what adds to that now is because we are putting the cart before the horse. I'm going to keep mentioning this. We are still confusing courtship with marriage. So if we focus more on marriage, if we focus more on courtship being the process to help us understand if we want to get married, then we will see less of that, right? When we talk about marriage, marriage is a great responsibility. And I also think because of the society in which we're in now, where now sisters have their own homes, sisters have their own cars, sisters have their own job, they're established. And sometimes a brother may feel like, well, what can I bring to the table? But brothers, you should not be intimidated. Because regardless if she has her own home, her own car, and all of that, she doesn't have a man. And if she found a good man, she'll be willing with whatever she has to bring it to the table, along with what the brother has, to be able to build the future. Not saying that some brother should marry a sister who has everything, he just want to lay up on her. No, you should come and help to relieve her of that responsibility that she actually had. Uh, Thanks for keeping it. Thank you. My daughter again suggested courtship request should be on the nation's program. Do you think about that? We should. Modern technology. We should, but we haven't got to it yet. We should. It should be, right? It should be. We got to use this modern technology to begin to start doing that. Hopefully, inshallah, one day in the future, we will begin to do that. But even whether you submit a courtship request through the captains, whether somebody you start courting somebody and you start courting somebody and you inform the laborers, whether you do it through the national program, I want you to remember this. In the end, you still have to do the work. Like honestly, I meet people in different cities. I meet people in different cities, and I meet brothers in different cities, sisters in different cities who are single. And as I'm listening to them, I'm thinking about, well, I wonder if they would be interested for this sister. I wonder if this be good for this brother. But even if I introduce you to a brother or sister, in the end, you still got to do the work, because I'm just going off with the little that I know about you. But in the end, you still have to do the work, right? So I know we have heard, well, let me read this. It says, I know we have heard the half age. I'm glad you mentioned this, brother, because I want to read where Mother Tanetta, in the courtship manual, she said that she had never heard the most honorable Elijah Muhammad ever say that. So we don't know where Malcolm X actually got that from, half your age plus 7. So we don't know where Malcolm X actually got that from. I was trying to find it in the courtship where it actually talks about it, but I don't think I printed out that particular page. Any other questions? Age requirement. The age requirement is based upon you. You know, I mean, they should be a marrying age, but that's based upon you. You have to decide. But once again, you have to know what you want. Do you want a sister that's older? Do you want a sister that's younger? Do you want a brother that's older? Do you want a brother that's younger? But we have to be honest. If we don't enter into a courtship being honest about what we want, we're going to get just what we did, right? You're going to get, Allah says in the Quran, you only get what you strive for. If you don't be honest about what you want, you're going to end up getting that. Be honest. If you want somebody who don't have children, be honest. If you want somebody that's educated, be honest. Be honest about what you want. You're bringing your wants. And see, what we're trying to figure out in the courtship, we're just realizing like, yo, this doesn't match. So yo, this doesn't work. But we have to be honest. And in order to do that, we have to know ourselves. So please subscribe to my page. Give me some feedback if you are. I'm big on feedback. I want to know. I want to know if you found this to be beneficial, because that's what I'm doing. I'm really big on pushing marriage and pushing courtship and then marriage. We have to do courtship rightly. We got to follow the rules. You can't do courtship the way you want to do it, and then when you don't get the results, you're upset and mad at somebody. I don't need chaperones. I don't need nobody telling me what to do. We're gonna do it this is my way. They don't know. Okay. Then when you get to end, when the end results add up, take your lick and say, yo, I made a mistake. But the biggest thing, brothers, I'm gonna close out on these points that I'm making. One, you should know that I said, work on yourself. Work on yourself. The greater self-improvement you do, the greater idea you will gain about what you want in a mate. That's the first thing. Two, courtship is not marriage. Courtship, I want you to go on. Courtship is not marriage. Courtship gives us the opportunity to decide if we want to marry someone, right? 3, when you start courting, be honest. Ask the questions. Be honest. Be honest about yourself and expect them to also be honest. 4, chaperones are not just meant to stop you from having sex. Chaperones will also help you to understand what questions to ask, what areas to look from, and to gain from their marital experience. If you're single, you should be listening to lectures by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan about marriage, courtship. You should be listening to any spiritual teacher that gives sound advice. Then you also should be working to heal yourself. You should have an idea what you want. Stop thinking that the mosque is the nation of Islam. There are brothers and sisters all around the nation, right? There are brothers and sisters all around the nation who are single and they're looking for mates, right? So thank you all, brothers and sisters. I'm gonna close. I really don't like doing long things like this, but I'm gonna do more of these. If you have any topics you want me to talk about, let me know, and I'll definitely deal with them. And I pray that Allah blesses each and every one of you all to find the love you desire. Salute to my wife for 18 years. I love her. She has helped me and is helping me to be the man that I am becoming, you know. Thank you, sis. So she's helping me to become the man I am becoming. Tonight I'll be doing a workshop in the city of Louisville, Kentucky. I did it in Baltimore when I was there on last week. So we got to do this. Marriage, development, courtship, marriage, strong families, all that's a part of nation building. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you tell other people what you felt about this, and let me know how this discussion helped you and what you liked about it, what you would like for me to talk more about. And may Allah continue to bless each and every one of you all. I'm trying to see how should I stop this. All right, peace.